Hey, there we go. Be nice to activate the mic. Good evening, Shaggy SoCal with 2Old4Forza, and this is the first track guide for season 40 of Thursday Night Thunder, and appropriately, or I don't know if it was by happenstance or on purpose, but the car that has been chosen for season 40 is the 1966 Ford GT40 Mark II. Um, This is being done very impromptu because we just kind of it was a test session earlier today to kind of work out the kinks in this GT40 and get something that's raceable, and then also at least start figuring out what the schedule is. So the first race will be this Thursday, and the first race will be at Sebring. So again, for this track guide, it's just kind of intro. I'll kind of do what I always do in my track guides. I'll do a kind of an out lap, a quick lap, just to kind of demo it. We'll get into a slow lap. Kind of take turn by turn. Again, you've watched my Sebring track guides before, and I'm going to look at the same things, but I'll hopefully kind of relay the as Doug DeMuro would put it, the quirks and features of this GT40. In a lot of ways, it's if you remember how the Ferrari P3 handled and how it had its squirrely moments. It's a little more so with this GT40, and I think it's just the nature of the beast. This thing definitely had the more straight line than the Ferrari, but sacrificing a little bit of that handling. So anyhow, enough talk. Let me go ahead and let's get into a test drive here and run a lap around Sebring. A couple things I can tell you is, unlike the Ferrari that we ran a few seasons ago, where we kept that kind of on the stock 1966 tire compound, just widen them up. We are running full race slicks on this GT40. I think it was, I've in my own playing around with setups on the stock tires, it just, again, a little too slippery, a little too skittish. I think the racing slips help give it some good grip there. Also running high downforce, and if you notice that we do have front downforce on as well. Doesn't mean that this car is not going to bite you if you do something wrong. But hopefully we'll produce some good racing. The other thing I will probably talk about, the gap from second to third is a little bit bigger than you think it should be. So what does that mean? That means on a downshift, especially at I think that's our turn there at Sebring. If you've got any kind of weight transfer to the left side there and you downshift to second, if you're using manual with clutch, the back end, you may feel the back end step out a little bit. So, go on. Oh, thought I was going to go wide. Okay. Let's just kind of take the slower lap here of Sebring and just kind of talk our way through this. So again, I'm in fourth gear. I'm not sure if I'll ever get up to fifth. I think it's one of those, you'll top out in fourth gear. You might be hitting close to the rev limiter. As you get to turn one, we'll see how I do. Again, this is very impromptu, so I really have not run many laps to kind of sort out what I'm doing. But fourth or fifth gear, what I'm finding is I'm using these the wires here across the track, kind of the additional reference point along with the braking line as the point that I'm going to get on the binders and turn in for turn one. For me, this is ideally best at a third gear turn, and I tend to turn in a smidgen earlier than the braking line goes. I think I kind of, in the past, I've used kind of the end of the pit wall. There's kind of as a reference to know when to start turning in. I think there's also times that I forget there's something over here that I look at. Again, I'm doing this very off the cuff. Not as prepared as I normally am. But again, third gear turn. I tend to turn in a little bit earlier than the line suggests. But at the same point, once I kind of meet up at the apex here, and I'm going to cross over this yellow line a little bit, then I'll kind of then get back on what the guideline would be on the exit. Again, third gear, bring it out, and again, kind of lining it up that, I kind of want to be out on the right side here along the curb, parallel with the curb on exit in third gear. Third gear up through here, maybe getting into fourth, braking for these next series of S's. Again, the 300 board is the best marker, to kind of correlate with the braking line. Again, knowing us and knowing that, this car will wiggle a little bit under braking. If you've got any kind of weight transfer in it when you're trying to get to the binders, wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't expect the 300 board to be there the entire race. So again, other things to look for. Again, we've got the access road here that kind of ends right up at the same point, and you've also got the white line that kind of crosses the track. Excuse me. So again, looking at any of these will also help you find your braking line. Yeah, you tell him, Dax. Got a kitten here on the chair next to me that's saying he wants me to stop talking and pay attention. Nope, can't do that. Sorry, buddy. You're just going to have to sit. So again, braking, downshifting, second gear. Again, these next several turns, I tend to do, it'll be a little bit of a late apex in this first one. Let me just kind of walk through it here. So second gear, a late apex this one. And again, the cones there are pretty good reference points. Again, they're probably going to get knocked over as the race goes on. So, man, how many of you I'm going to make you all tired and sleepy here? I keep yawning like this. So the other thing to look for is, again, how the grass has gotten worn on the inside of the curbing. If the cone's gone, and again, you notice the cone is very late as far as where it's kind of indicating that's about where you want to apex. So again, it's a late apexer here. It should line you up straight across this next corner. Now this is where, with the GT40, and when I get into the mock race, I'll be definitely playing around with this. My normal tendency with most cars is for this next curbing. A lot of times is I'll abuse it and I'll cross over it. I'll get on it. In most cases, I'm going to cross over so that my right sides are actually on the other side of the curb. For this curbing, that may unsettle the GT40 more than you're comfortable with. So whether you cross the curbing or not, up to you. Usually then, but the goal is that I want to have the GT40 out of that corner, lined up here on the left side. And again, it's another quick brake. I think down to second. Maybe I'm still in third at this point. And this also is a late apex turn. And the apex is right about here. And again, rolling out. The third. Bring it all the way out to the right side. Usually I tend to then, once I get out of this corner, and even though this is kind of a right-hand sweeper coming under the bridge, because the tire barriers are so close to the edge of the track, usually after I exit, coming up to this bend, I will just slightly move out just to give myself some wiggle room so that I'm not risking hitting that wall there. Out through the bend, again, just let the track then naturally bring the car across to the left side on exit. Line up here. Third gear, you might put it in fourth before you get down to the braking zone. Braking for the hairpin is going to be right about, again, see how the race goes. You've got the 4 cones is right about where I'm braking. Lines up with the white line across the track. I'm braking just before that. And this is just a very straight braking down to second gear. And for me, it's a late turn in. So I'm not turning in. It's almost like I feel like I'm going past the corner and then turning in late. This curving for this hairpin will upset the GT40 if you get on it trying to exit out, especially if you're trying to get back to power. So a lot of times this is the area of the track where I'm staying off the curbing as much as possible. I've been playing around with second gear. I think works best out of here. Um, First gear, if you're in traffic and you get really checked up, then obviously drop it down to first. But if you're on your own just trying to set laps and get in rhythm, I think second gear works best out of here. So I'm going to stay off this curbing on the right side on exit, but I am going to abuse this curving here because I'm going straight across it. There's no steering in it at all. Just wind up through the gears. Second gear, third gear. I usually keep it on the right side here and then arc back over. And again, I am staying off the curbs all through those couple of bends, except for that one that I cross over. I stay off all the rest of those curbs. Just make sure that the curbing's not going to, kind of shove the car sideways. Braking down through here, and here's my memory going. I'm getting old. I am braking before the 300 board. It's just before the 300 board, I think. Not that far back. I think it's just before the 300 board. Maybe it is again, very often impromptu. But again, wherever you decide to brake. Again, this is braking down to second gear. And this is another one that I tend to turn in, kind of start to turn in right as I'm getting to the blue curbing here out on the left. And it's another late apex. So I'm aiming for that cone there on the inside. That's kind of almost right at the end of the curbing. And it's mainly the late apexing it to give me kind of the straighter line to the next set of corners. Second gear here. Now this, because I've run laps with manual with clutch. I think if you're running manual, because it's second gear here, you're going to be shifting to third somewhere in this turn. Either you're going to shift right before, at the apex, or on the exit. It's going to be up to you. What I found with manual, since even though we have a race transmission in the car, manual clutch is still going to be faster. Because there's still a little bit of a delay shifting with the manual transmission. But because there is that little bit of a lift on manual, you can actually probably leave the accelerator pegged, because the upshift, because you're lifting, will give a little bit, keep the balance of the car, and it won't then slam into third gear as harshly as it would for maybe a manual with clutch, because the shifting is that much quicker. Manual with clutch. What I've been doing is usually just out of habit is when I do shift to third, I am releasing the throttle and then maybe rolling back in maybe half to 3/4 and not then committing back to full throttle until I'm in third and I know the car is set. And then it's just kind of balancing it through here. Again, it's a nice double apexer. Most of us are probably going to run wide here of the exit because we're trying to carry as much speed through as possible. I like going to fourth. You could probably leave it in third and rev bang, and bang it off the rev limiter right before you brake. I tend to want to leave it. I tend to like to go up to fourth. Just the car feels a little bit more compliant. Coming into the braking here, if the sooner you can get the car straight to brake for tower turn, the better. The easier it'll be to get the car slowed down. The easier it'll be to then turn into the corner. Pardon me a second. I'm going to kick the kitten. Come on, out. So, fourth gear for me down to third. If you're using manual with clutch and you're starting to turn in and you downshift to second, this is where, because the gap between third, going down from third to second, is a little bit wider than you'd expect. You may feel, because the revs are going to go way up high, or going to go higher a little bit going down to second, it will kind of lock the diff, and you're going to feel the back end kind of step out to the left a little bit. Um, so I'm warning you now, just to let you know, it's not one of those that the car's going to spin out and you're going to go off. You're just going to feel the back end kick out. If depending on when you shift. Now, if you delay that downshift to second a little bit longer, later than you would think to do it, probably won't feel it as much. But just know that particularly here, you'll feel it because you're going to have weight on the left side of the car. It is going to want to make the back of the car step out just that ever so slightly. You won't notice it for a lot of the other heavy braking for like the hairpins or like that, because you're braking in a straight line. And and excuse me a second. Okay. First. Second gear out of here, up to third, probably up to fourth, and across to the right here, just to the curbing here. You can do this flat. You get the line right. You can get on that curbing a little bit. It's not going to upset the car too much. If you don't think you've got the line right, or you're going in too shallow, it's just a quick lift of the throttle as you get to the apex and roll it back in. Then you'll be fine there. The next part here, try to cut this enough so that you're maybe only getting just out to half track before you hit the braking, because you're going to brake right about where that grass starts to set up for the last couple of turns here to get on the back straight. So I'm usually in fourth gear here. This for me is a third gear turn. And I'm, again, much like a lot of the other turns, I'm doing a lot of my braking in a straight line. And then as I release the brakes, that's when then I'm turning in for the corner. And I am trying to get the car, at or on the curbing here a little bit. Exit that way, then so I can bring the car back across. Because I really want to keep the car to the left here on exit. And once I get in rhythm, I'm going to start to cheat over the white line a little bit to open up the corner here to get onto the back straight. This is all third gear for me. Then it's brake and turn in. The what I want to point out is where I'm apexing here. This curbing, as you start running laps and you kind of pay attention to it, I brought this up in other track guides, where a lot of the curbing, it's not this nice, smooth, kind of just nice, even turn there. There's usually kind of turns a little bit, then it's a little sharp, and there's what I would say, just even on the curbing, mini apexes that you'll find. So as you turn in for here, there's a bend right about here is where I'm aiming to apex. At speed, it's a little easier to pick up than here, at going no miles per hour. But that's where I'm trying to apex it. So it's a bit of a late apex in third gear. Bring the car back out. And I'm really not rolling back into the throttle until I get to that apex. And it's rolling back into the throttle up in third gear. And I'm staying off the outside curbing. I think you can get on that outside curbing a little bit without upsetting the car too much. But I think just until I get to know this car a bit better and what I can get away with and what I can't, I've just been staying off the curbing, any curbing that's got any kind of bridges that'll unsettle the car like that. So again, third gear, fourth gear. I don't think we get up to fifth at this point. Sunset turn. This one I'm still working out exactly where I'm braking, but I'll at least tell you how I'm getting in there. So as I'm getting the 300 board here, again, first white line that's crossing the track, I'm out on the left side. That's where I'm actually going to start to turn the car and point it. You can just barely see it. If you look where the camera guy is and you see the big light pole next to it, then if you follow that inside line for Sunset Bend, you can just barely see where it turns yellow. So that's where I'm kind of pointing and aiming the car towards. I'm still full throttle at this point as I kind of point the car into the corner. Where I haven't quite sorted out is exactly the best place to brake. I think the earliest, I think as you're crossing this line here is good. You know, if you're going to brake at the one board, that's should work fine. Probably a little conservative. You could probably brake. The latest I think you can brake and get away with it is halfway between the one board and the line there that crosses the track for it, and this final line. That final line, yeah, that's too late. I actually tried that one, and um, you know, it's not like you're going to go sailing into the wall, but you're certainly going to go very wide on exit, you know, in the first half of this corner and get off course. So I think about just as you pass the one board is probably a good place to kind of get into a rhythm of braking and then just kind of play with it. Like how deep can I get into this corner before I get on the brakes and still make the corner? Because I think a lot of passes, you know, if you get a good run if you get a good run onto the straight, you might be able to take a shot into the sunset bend. I would say depending on how everybody adapts to the car, it might be you just want to get into a good rhythm and worry more about getting a good exit onto the front stretch. So again, braking about here, but the line that I tend to take through here is I am going to clip the inside of the yellow here and brake, 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 brake. And I'm releasing the brakes. So I'm letting the car come out to the left side. And I'm usually releasing the brakes right about as I'm getting kind of next to or just as I'm starting to pass the Forza banners there on the right. As soon as I start seeing them go out, then I'm coming completely off the brakes, third gear, and then just trying to follow the line and set up for the last corner. It is bumpy. So as I'm getting onto the Mobile One bridge, I'm trying to bring it as close to the inside as possible. And even here, I want to try and clip, if I can, get on or clip the yellow line and aim for the camera position on the exit here on the left side. Because the one thing you want to be mindful of as well, again, the exit, because for the track limits, you don't want to cross the white line. And it's very easy to do so, especially as you're really trying to carry momentum out. It's very easy to misjudge the exit and go too wide here across the white lines. So maybe if you kind of keep that camera position in mind as you exit, that'll help you give you a target to go towards as you're exiting, hopefully keep you from crossing and getting a time penalty. And then again, as you're racing down the front straight, just slowly bring the car back across. And maybe you're about mid-track at the cross start finish, and bring the car all the way back over to the right as you approach turn one for the next lap of Sebring. So that's real quick, down and dirty lap with the GT40. I'm going to go ahead and get into a mock race and just kind of combine with what I think will work with some questionable racecraft, and we'll see how things play out. Go ahead and finish the test drive. And what I'm going to do is let me just double check my assists here. Yep, good. All right, so for the race today, and again, this is I don't know how this race will play out, but I'm going to be competing. I'm going to be starting 40 seconds back from group, so I'm technically bucket 2 for this race. Kind of what I was doing in the Macon. I'm going to have one class out in front that I can definitely catch, and then 2 classes behind me that hopefully will push me a little bit, maybe create some situations where I got to be defensive. But anyhow, so I'm going to start 40 seconds back from bucket 1. Bucket 1 will be the same group. It will be the same division that the GT40 is in, so the prototype racing group. But I will be significantly quicker than them, lap over lap. Hunting me down, starting 55 seconds back. We're going to have the Forza P2. A little more modern, and then bringing up the rear will be early prototype racers. So they're basically Group C. So a lot of good sports cars prototypes here for Sebring. So actually, in a way, a good mix of cars, kind of what you might see out of a multi-class weekend. And we're going to do daytime, and go ahead and start the race. And I think the other decision that I think Matt has made for the season is, unlike the Macon season where we were doing two shorter sprint races per week, I think this is going back to the previous format where it will be a single race over each Thursday. So again, Sebring will be the first one. I'm expecting, we'll see how long this takes. I'm kind of basing lap times about a 2-minute lap, at least for me. I want to kind of do the math. It's about 18 laps for what I would consider half distance. So you might be seeing as many as 36 on race night. So again, Matt will sort those details out with you guys on Thursday, but just so you're ready for it. Here, on the curve there. It is possible to get the rears get the rears loose on going to full throttle. Okay, so I did go to fifth there. I might just leave it. Okay, so yeah, don't break the 3-board. 3-board's too late. Go at that first white line with the where the 4 cones are at. Yeah, you heard the back tire kind of squeal a little bit when I went down to second. That's that gap. That could have been a little bit better. I got a little wide. It's going to take me a bit to kind of sort that out. I actually turned in a little bit later than I was talking about. Did we do better next lap? Yeah, what seems to happen is if you get the inside tires over the curb, it'll hook the car a little bit. So you might be able to use that to your advantage if you need a little extra help getting the car rotated. Like there, I just barely got on that curb and it was enough to back in to step out when I was getting back to the car. Yeah, there's that downshift to second, kind of getting the back end to kick out a little bit. You got the left front tire off the track. Yeah, I think getting into the racing slicks was the right thing to do, just to help kind of keep this car a little bit more planted. Whoa. Just got the right sides on the grass. So yeah, neat and tidy. Be neat and tidy. That was that breaking at that last line. A little too late. Again, great speed into the corner, but then you have to exit. Not bad. I think I outrun that big 2 car behind me in a straight line, but just quartering it's no. Yeah, that curbing on the right side, getting onto the back straightaway, it flattens out a little bit in the middle. Which is why then it looks like there's two apex, 2 points that you can. Well, time family. Yeah, there's that again. That drop down to second. That rear to step out a little bit if you're still trying to turn. late there. Definitely taking looks. Careful, I need to watch the guy in front of me. So that I don't run into the back of him. Yeah, that's the curbing. Having fun with the car. They can get on that curbing, on that exit curbing a little bit. I would almost, I'd rather get in the habit of staying off of it and then only using it if I've made a mistake. Alright, let's see how much handling that 2 car has. Quite a bit. Kind of forced that pass, but even then, downshifting to getting it down to first because I was doing it so late. I'll lock the rears up a little bit, which helped get me through the corner. A little too much to the inside. like always here, we'll hit halfway. The other thing I want to point out, if you're paying attention or if you're kind of looking at things, because we're running racing slicks versus the, if we were on the stock compound like we were with the Ferrari, no question tire wear would not be, or at least a concern or something to be mindful of. We'll need to be mindful of it here, because we're running the race tire. Yeah, so I'm already, not even halfway through this race, and I'm almost quarter of the way through the tire. So again, you figure the longer races, again, it will be, if it is indeed the longer races, then it'll be 2 stops whenever you feel like it. But it's not like this car is not going to be able to go. Depending on your tire wear, again, I think it's one of those you could get a half distance on a set of tires probably pretty easily. Again, I'm on a controller, so in theory, my tire wear should be much higher than real users. But you should be able to get sometime. Yeah, you should be able to get to half distance without too much worry on grip loss. Alright, remember I gotta pit. I'm actually kind of surprised that the, except for that one E2 Chevy, that they see much of the rest of the other guys chasing me. Got mired in the traffic from the early prototype guys pitting. See how things shake out. Exiting out, I'm actually going to stay all the way to the left here, then rejoin the circuit there. I think that's the safest way to do it. Depending on how much traffic you're in or when you decide to pit. I can push this bag. Oh, going wide. Come on, Jack, get going. There you go. I help you pass the Ferrari. Ferrari. A little late. There's really not really once you come on. And once you kind of get to this back half of the course, there's really no like ideal place to pass somebody. You know, at least to set up a pass. It's really about if they make a mistake or not and go off. You definitely want to work on getting good exit onto the back straight. Ah! And that is the danger of hugging that inside line if you're not going to the pit. Okay, cost me the win. I don't know unless these guys get caught up behind lower traffic here. May have already hit it. Ooh, that should have been third. Went to second, and then you could hear the back tires protesting. Did that one. I just wanted to play that one a little safer because I wasn't sure quite where they're braking. The question is, I get 5 laps? No, 6 laps. I get I get third place. We're going wide. I'm definitely not getting it now. It's just me trying to carry as much speed as I could through there, and I should have backed off. It looks like I'm breaking about the one board. Line. Got in there a little late. I'm up to first. Do this right this time. That's better. Yeah, he's already pulled out 2 seconds on. Maybe he has to fit. He did have to pit. Got a little bit wide on exit. Oh, second place is fitting, but I don't think I'm going to be able to capitalize on that. I've got another problem. Got a salver? Yep. Oopsie, salver behind me now. See if I can keep him behind me for a lap and a half. Kind of keep him behind me in the corners because I can take the apex away. It's just the top end that I think is where he got. It's a good run. Doesn't have a run on me now. Trying to get up there. Holy crap, can that car turn? Well, most cars turn better than this GT40. That's where he's making up the most time. Side, geared exit, right on my butt. You can have the outside. I'm going to take the inside. Again, because I'm going way defensive there. Oh! I didn't expect him to stay out there. As I was saying, because I was going way defensive there, that then definitely is a situation down to first gear. A little bit wide. He's a lot closer this time. It's just enough to the inside to make him think about it. It's going to make Sunset really interesting. Way wide. Yep. Just gave up the inside. There he goes. Oh no, surprise. Left the door wide open for him there. One lap to go. And just powers around the outside. Seconds to fifth, so I think I'm That's why I don't like first gear with that hairpin on my own. I just think it slows the car down way too much. Even though it's low for second. Whoops, what gear am I in? That is Sebring in the Ford GT40 Mark II. So again, sorry, very impromptu, off the cuff. So not my best live stream, but that's Sebring. That's kind of what you can expect from the GT40. Tunes out there. Pride's got it shared. I think right now the only one he's got shared is brake pressure 140. So if you need something higher or lower, you know the drill. Just put it in the TNT chat. Tell them what you need, and that way you can get the tunes ready. I think there is more of a shakedown school night tomorrow. Probably run. I'm sure you'll run Sebring there. I don't know if he's going to test a couple other tracks there. So I don't know what the rest of the schedule is. So I think Matt's still putting that together. We should know that before Thursday. And then finally, again, for this race, I did 18 laps. It took roughly 37 minutes. If it's one long endurance race, then this Thursday, figure, 36 at the high end. As far as max, it might be closer to 34, depending on what y'all do. So anyhow, with that, hope you guys had a great weekend, and have a good week, and happy racing.